Welcome to our KHOU 11 post-game stream of the Texans' 23-20 win over the Jaguars in Week 13. Luis Ortiz alongside myself. A couple technical difficulties that we're working through here, but we are awaiting DeMeco Ryans at the podium in Jacksonville. We also expect CJ Stroud to be there again. A 23-20 win. Luis, a much-needed win and maybe a sigh of relief for Texans fans?
You can say so, I think, a little bit. At least you know that, okay, and they still have that two-game lead in the AFC South, right?
Right.
You saw that they were able to score 2 touchdowns this time in the second half, right? One on the ground and one over the air. So a few things. I think it's a tale of two halves, right? Because the first half of the game, as we were looking at it and we were talking about it, it was kind of like, you know what a bad football game looks like? That was it. The first half, it was just two teams going back and forth, punting the ball.
Wasn't good.
No, and then eventually second half, Joe Mixon wakes up, and it's a different story.
Yeah, it is. And we want to remind our audience we are going to be doing our one word to describe this Texans victory. Again, a much-needed victory, as Luis said, a tale of two halves. Joe Mixon really ends up turning it on in the second half. He goes for over 100 yards. It looked like there was really no room to run early on.
Right. That was one of the talking points. That was one of the talking points because if he didn't end up waking up in the second half, he only had 22 yards in the first half through the first 2 quarters. It would have been 3 out of the last 4 games in which he was really not able to do much on the running game. So great job by Joe Mixon to be able to just turn it on in the second half because he really saved the game, especially at the end when he got that big first down with 2 minutes left on the clock. Yeah. And that really pushed the game to under a minute and a half. And then Texans, after that, they just kind of get into victory formation, kneeling down and taking the timeouts. And that's what sealed it. So Joe Mixon was really the star of the game.
Yeah, 2 big third down conversions for them. Joe Mixon running for 2 tough first downs there at the end of the game to seal it and to ensure that the Jaguars were not going to be able to come back and try and kick a field goal. It got a little dicey there, though, late in the fourth quarter because after the Texans scored that touchdown, the pass to Dalton Schultz, you thought, okay, this is done. It's sealed. It's over. But, of course, Jacksonville got back in it.
Texans are Texans, right? Texans football. And it's funny because you mentioned it after that Dalton Schultz touchdown. You said they need one more. And I was like, nah, this game's over. I thought you look at the score late in the game, the momentum just felt like the Texans had this one in their pocket. But you were right. They did need another touchdown. And you said it just for security purposes, right?
Yeah. I also would have liked to see them score another touchdown just simply for the fact that they haven't been playing well on offense really overall. And that brings us to our first viewer question here from Sheila, our very own brand manager, Sheila Lopez, who asked us, guys, what is up with CJ? Yeah, it's been a tough going for CJ these last 4 or 5 games. This season, he hasn't had the same statistics as he did last year, although I will say last week on Sports Extra, Luis put together a little snippet of what CJ's done, and we'll get back to this conversation. DeMeco's at the podium right now. Let's go to him in Jacksonville.
Yeah, it's a really nice to get one in our division. When I'm really proud of the way our guys just played complementary football, right? That's been a struggle for us in the games that we've dropped. So just seeing everybody step up and make a play when the other side wasn't doing so well, like everybody played together. And that's what's most impressive about this win, and none other than when we need a first down, seeing our offense being able to run the ball there on 3rd and 5 to get the first down. Our O-line, I thought they did a really great job all game with protection and also just run blocking. And Joe, again, another big game on the road, running the football. Like, really just proud of the effort that all of our guys showed today. Oh, now the story is flipped. We can score in the second half. All right, so we tried to save our points for the second half this week. So, really, our offense did a good job there. We settled for some field goals early in the first half, but the defense, I thought, did a good job of holding their offense as well. And coming out the second half, just to see us go down and drive, there's been an emphasis for us. And it's nothing different. Our guys just executed and made the plays that were there for us in the second half.
Joe's will and want to determination we saw him kind of limping goes back in first half. What do you see from him as far as heart and talent?
Yeah, Joe is, man, you talk about a guy who plays with the relentless mindset, the tenacity that you need. Joe's an old school running back. Like, he's a guy who wants it 30 times, and he keeps getting better the more touches that he gets. So really proud of him to know he's hurting, right, and still push through, right, to still churn out yards, even when, I mean, they're loading the box, and to still be able to find a way to get yards. It's really impressive by our O-line and our tight. I thought our tight ends, right, I can't say enough about the way they blocked today as well. I thought they did an outstanding job blocking, and Joe ran it really well.
From your perspective, what did you see? The hit by Aziz, the aftermath of it all?
Yeah, it's not unfortunate with the hit with Aziz. It's, it's not what we're coaching. It's just want to be smart in everything we do and not hurt the team, get a penalty there. We just have to be smarter when the quarterback is going down. Just an unfortunate play, not representative of who Aziz is. Like, Aziz is a smart player, really great leader for us, and we felt his presence not being there, not his loss. It really affected us on the defensive side. Just not what we're coaching. Didn't want to see the melee and all of the aftermath. That's not what we're about. Just not representative of us. So I'll talk to Aziz, address him personally, and we'll move forward from it.
A couple of some of the deep shots that happened. What do you feel like happened on some of the deep plays and did you all make a difference?
Defensively? Yeah, I mean, we gave up some just being disciplined in coverage. Right? I think that's where they got some plays on us. And, again, some of them were shallow plays that we let go for an explosive. Like, we got to tackle better. We got to be better in the deep end of the field and not give up explosive plays.
You mentioned the briefly pass protection today was significantly better. CJ had some time. Just some of the adjustments that were made, the narratives, just the whole thing.
Yeah, the pass protection I thought was really, really great. None better, I think, than the play on Dalton getting the touchdown. Like, they pressured us, and the CRO line, our back, step up. And you challenge those guys to step up, make sure we give CJ time. And when you give him time, he can make great decisions with the football. And I'm really proud of our offensive line. They got the game ball today, and they deserved it for the way they protected him.
Not talking too long. Do you think this is something you all can build on and kind of take with you as you all move forward and try to continue to play your best ball?
Yeah, it's a win for us, a big win for us. Now, really, we need a break. It's been a long time. Our guys been going for, I don't know, it's just 13 weeks straight now. It's been a long time, and our guys, I think we felt that towards the end of the game. Our guys are gassed, and we need our bye week is coming up at the perfect time for us.
What do you think? What's the biggest emphasis for you guys during the bye?
Rest and recover. We've been grinding for a long time, and to have a bye this late, it's hard mentally and physically, and our guys really need to just take a reset, right, and make sure their bodies are recovered, make sure their minds are right so we can make a push. We got 3 games in 10 days coming up, so we had to make a push there.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We're opening the locker room, guys.
All right, we just heard DeMeco Ryans at the podium in Jacksonville. We are still awaiting CJ Stroud after this 23-20 win over the Jags. So the Texans improved to 8-5. Luis, I want to get some of your thoughts on what DeMeco said post-game. Quite a turnaround in the narrative. They saved the touchdowns for the second half of this game, and then the offensive line gets the game ball. I think that really stood out to me. What did you think of their performance?
It caught you by surprise, right?
It did.
Look, if you look at the box score, only 2 sacks, right? They only gave up – CJ Stroud only got sacked twice. So that is a good positive. However, first half, we talked about it. There was a lot of plays in which Joe Mixon really had nowhere to go. They're not creating those windows, those open spaces, those gaps for him to get by. Like, the running game, whenever they do have a good day on the rushing game, it's because of Joe Mixon.
course.
You know, it's not because the offensive line is just in such unison and then they just make the path. They lay out a red carpet for him and he just walks by, right?
Right.
It's really just Joe Mixon. So
Right.
I don't know. For me, I'm surprised by it as well. I'm not sure what DeMeco is referring to, but the protection, I would say CJ, he obviously didn't get sacked much today, only 2 sacks. However, he didn't really have a lot of time. And one of the answers he gave, one of the quotes was, when you give CJ time, he can make great plays.
We know that.
Yes.
We know
And
that.
even when he doesn't have time, because there was 2 plays that we talked about, right?
right.
We saw them where he literally extends the play and finds a way to get rid of the ball. And sometimes he makes just a play that it's head scratching, right? You just
Right.
scratch your head and say, how did he make that happen? But I didn't really see him have time. I just saw him be able to maneuver outside of the pocket and extend the play long enough to get rid of the ball.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm quite at game ball status for the offensive line.
Yeah, I would have given it to Joe.
I completely agree. Joe Mixon deserved this game ball, and he's deserved a number of them throughout the year, because this team would not be here without Joe Mixon. Let's
At all, no.
be completely honest about that. We have multiple people here saying, Joe Mixon is the team's MVP. And, Sheila also talked to us. She asked us here, what's been up with CJ,
Right.
Luis? That's been a hot topic. You did, again, I wanted to, make that clear. You had this segment last week on Sports Extra where you showed that his stats are relatively similar, but it just seems how he's getting in this year it's just been so much harder than it appeared to be last year. And, he's great at going off book. He's fantastic at doing things out of the pocket. This year, I think that he's really, really been pressured a lot more than he even was last year.
For sure.
In some instances, I think that can, and understandably so, get to your confidence a little bit. Would you agree?
Oh, most definitely. We were talking about this yesterday, and I mentioned it's collateral damage, right? Like everything that's going on with him getting hit, getting rushed, he has no time. It's just so much. It's like a domino effect, right? The dominoes start to fall one after each other.
Right.
And eventually, I feel like CJ at this point, mentally, he's rushed. He just knows that I have no time and I got to get this ball somewhere. And that's why you see him miss some of these plays, right? Yeah. Last week when Tank Dell had an open play, it's just he looked that way. But by the time he was looking at him and he saw, okay, there's no play there, he shifted his vision to another play. And that's what you do as a quarterback. You know that, listen, I got 6'5" or however tall big guys are coming at me. They're rushing me. And it's hard to see over them sometimes, right? And you know that you have such little time to make a play. When you don't see play 1, you have to go to play 2, option 3, whatever it is. That is your job. It happened today as well with that Tank, that deep pass where some people are saying he underthrew it, which was a 70-yard bomb. He just saw him a little bit too late, right? And I think that's what's happening. Mentally, he is rushed. He doesn't have any trust in, hey, I'm going to have 3 seconds of just complete protection. I can, take my time and get rid of the ball. No. And I think that's just it. That's what's causing everything.
I think he's having to think about, how am I going to adjust the throw that I'm making before he even makes the throw. It's not just a matter of making that throw, right? He's thinking about what is going to be in my way as I throw this, which direction is it coming from, and then how do I adjust the throw that I'm making, because the reality is that most of the time he has been under duress in the pocket this season. So it makes sense. Today, 22 of 34, 242 yards. He throws the 1 touchdown to Dalton Schultz. I thought that was good to see Dalton Schultz getting into the action when it came to scoring a touchdown, because I think this seems better, when you get those tight ends involved.
For sure. Overall, not just the touchdown, but listen, Dalton Schultz today finishes with 61 yards off of 5 receptions. Yeah. Dalton Schultz has had a very quiet season, remember, and, they gave him a new contract, so there was some expectation coming into it. I think we've been saying this for weeks now. They need to do more of that. I've mentioned it before where, listen, and it's not about comparing Dalton Schultz to tight ends like, Gronkowski or even Travis Kelce. or even comparing at this point because it's way too early, CJ Stroud to Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes. But what I've said in the past is, look at how these guys, the offense that they run, where they do those short slants, the short passes to their tight ends, where you gain 5 yards, you gain 7 yards. And if you see, that was kind of what Dalton Schultz did today, short passes. But if on first down you get 5 yards on your first play, then second down you get another 5 yards, 7 yards, whatever it is, you start to move the chains, right? You move down the field continuously. So I think that's what they've been missing all season, just to kind of get their tight ends involved a lot more. And going back to what you were saying as far as CJ and how rushed he is, anything in life, if you do it rushed, anything in life, you're going to make mistakes.
That's right. We can attest to that personally. Luis and I were actually talking about that yesterday going into this game about, just how when you're feeling pressure in anything in life, it only makes sense that you're not going to be able to do things as accurately, because doing things accurately takes a little bit more time. I realize he's an NFL quarterback. He should be able to handle this pressure. He should be able to handle, having to go through progressions more quickly. But Luis and I talked about this yesterday too as well. Hindsight really is 2020. Yeah. When we hear people talk about, well, he had this guy open, he had that guy open, here's the reality. We're seeing that. We have about 30 seconds to dissect that after the play is over, and the screen is typically frozen, right? It's stopped.
Right. It's us buffering through video. It's like literally rewinding it, playing it again, over and over and over, slowing it down. It's like, and we're going to talk about this, right? The Aziz play on Trevor Lawrence, that hit.
Yep.
When you look at it in slow motion, you feel like, oh, he had enough time to stop and not hit him or jump over him or change direction. But it's because we are seeing it in slow motion. Remember, this in real life happens so fast. How many yards were between Aziz and Trevor Lawrence? Trevor Lawrence tiptoeing to the last minute, then decides to slide. Right. And then remember, I saw a video on Twitter where someone said, hey, this is why players go for the quarterback just in case this happens. There's a video from one player where he faked like he was going to slide and go down, and then he keeps going, and then the defenders were like, oh, he's sliding, okay, we're not going to go after him, and they let him go, and he ends up scoring a touchdown. So what if Aziz did say, oh, okay, look, it looks like he's going down, I'm not going to hit him, just he's going to go down on his own, and then it doesn't happen, and Trevor Lawrence ends up scoring a touchdown, just passes by, So yeah. Everything happens so fast, and when we see it on video, we have so much time to really, like you said, dissect it, that it's true. Hindsight is 2020, and it's easy for us. DeMeco said it not too long ago. It's easy for us to talk about it and have the answers per se when, we're here taking our time looking at video, playing it over and over again.
That's right, and I'm glad you brought that up about the Aziz hit, because DeMeco did talk about that in the presser. He said, it's not representative of the type of player that Aziz is. And of course, when you see that on tape, the first thing you think is that's a cheap shot, right? But as you mentioned, in real life, in fast motion, we have no idea what his intent was. I'm sure his intent was not to hurt anybody, but given that situation, it did not look good.
For me, for sure, it's a late hit. Yeah. I personally don't see it as a cheap shot. And here's why. Because when you do look at the replay, he didn't go for his head. He didn't go for his helmet. He went towards his chest, shoulder area. Okay. He didn't come in head first. He didn't hit him with his helmet. He actually extends his forearm, hands, and hits him. So for me, it's like he's being conscious enough to where, like, hey, I'm going to hit you here, not up here, right? And it's a late hit for sure. I feel like, okay, the penalty is fair enough. It's a late hit, rough or whatnot. It was a tough hit. But if everything that ensued afterwards, where, now the Jaguars come and push Aziz, and then this whole, fight breaks out and everything, if that hadn't happened, that doesn't escalate, I'm not sure if he gets ejected. The penalty for sure, but I'm not sure that the refs, if he just hit him and then gets up and walks and the play continues, and obviously Trevor Lawrence is down because he's hurt, they tend to him or whatnot, I'm not sure if the ref automatically just says, hey, this is an ejection.
Yeah, that's true.
If we can compare it to soccer, I'm not sure that's a straight red card. It's a yellow card, but maybe not a red card.
Well, I'll tell you what I do know. A lot of fighting going on the football field the last couple days between college and the NFL. A lot going on. Let's get to our one word to describe this Texans win. For me, it's very simple. Relief. It is a relief for them to get a win this week, and I think so much of that has to do with the fact that they lost to a team that they should have beat last week in the Titans. You sack Will Levis 8 times.
Yeah.
And you still lose that game. They're also coming off 2 games before that where they intercept Jared Goff 5 times and they lose that game. They won a game they were supposed to win. I wouldn't say it looked great, but they won. They scored in the second half. I don't think they answered questions, but they got it done. That's what I'm going with.
Yeah, well, you just said it. They won a game that they're supposed to win. So I don't feel good about that. I'm sorry if I'm being a hard critic here, but if you're supposed to win, then I don't think that you deserve flowers for that. Also, you do say, I don't know if they answered questions. I think they did answer some questions. And that's why my word is half full. I'm not sure if that counts as a one word, but we're going to count it as one word. Half full because, like we mentioned earlier, right, 2 halves, 2 tails in this game, right? So first half, it was very bad for me. You know, I didn't like what I saw. But in the second half, I think they answered some questions. They were able to score touchdowns in the second half. They were able to figure out whether it's them as a team or just Joe Mixon, but they were able to figure out how to run the ball because they weren't doing it in the first half. And then the passing game was there. I mean, if you look at also just CJ throwing for 242 yards, you look at the receivers, Nico Collins had 119, Dalton Schultz had 61. So the passing game was there. They scored only 1 touchdown, but it was there, right? They were able to get plays or whatnot. So when you have, I feel like offensively, it's a pretty balanced game when you have one guy with over 100 receiving yards and then another guy with over 100 rushing yards. I think that's a pretty balanced game, right, offensively. So should they have scored more? It would have been great if they scored more than 23 points. Also, I feel like maybe the defense giving up 20 points, especially late in the game, 2 touchdowns to the Jaguars. Remember, it's 2 sides, right? It's offense and defense, not just one side of the team winning the game.
It's true. I was surprised that they gave up that last touchdown to the Jaguars, especially after, Trevor Lawrence gets knocked out of the game. And we would love to hear your thoughts on that last touchdown. I'd love to hear one word for the offense today to describe the offense for our for those out there on Facebook, KHOU 11 Plus who are watching us. I'd love to hear your one word about this offense. How you think things maybe progressed today compared to last week, but back to your point, about the defense. Yeah, it was surprising to see them give up that last touchdown because you just wanted to see them nail down a win. No talk after the game, we let them back in because that has been the Texans' mantra all season. In the 4 of 6 games that they had lost coming into this game, they had a lead in the second half, and they lost it. So, yes, your offense isn't scoring, but that also means your defense is allowing points in the second half if you lose, right?
Right. So, yeah, exactly. I mean, if we go down their schedule this year, it's always been very tight games. Like, aside from the game against the Patriots and the Cowboys, most of the games have been, decided by 1 score maybe, if that, So, for sure, the Texans do need to win in a more convincing manner, right, with a wider margin, because then that speaks volumes as far as, like, okay, not only is your defense playing well, but your offense is also rolling, right, because you're scoring points and you're not allowing points, and that's what you need in order to win in the playoffs, because what you said, right, they won again that they're supposed to win.
Yeah.
But did it look good enough to give you the confidence, the boost of confidence to say, okay, this team can beat the Ravens in the playoffs. This team can beat the Bills in the playoffs, the Chiefs.
Yeah.
That's what we're striving for, what they're striving for, right? What they're shooting for. That's the type of opponents you are aiming to be able to beat.
They are who we thought they were, right? That's. I want to get back to some of our comments on Facebook. This one from Dina. Everyone blaming Slowick. Our players can't make his plays work. He's partially to blame. However, take a deeper dive into the plays and the players that can't make them work. Well, Dina, music to our ears, because Luis and I have been talking about this the last couple days. How much, to what degree, who is to blame for all of this? And we agree that, yes, Bobby Slowick probably takes part of the blame for the scheme, but a lot of it comes down to not executing the plays or not having time to execute the plays. Would you agree, Luis?
Yeah, no, I think she's spot on because we literally just talked about this yesterday as we were, talking about ahead of this game. You said it because the example that I used was, okay, how much responsibility or credit does the rushing game get? Is it the offensive line that makes it happen, or is it Joe Mixon that makes it happen? Because the offensive line is practically the same one, before Kenyon Green was out, but it's literally been the same guys there, and you've had Damian Pierce or Darren Ogunbowale there, and then Joe Mixon. Yeah. And the only time that this team actually has any success on the rushing game is when Joe Mixon is there. You take him out, and again, it's the same offensive line, and there is no running game. So I think that speaks to, okay, then Joe Mixon is the key there. He's the X factor.
You answered your question, I would say.
So I say all of that to say, you're right. I think that at some point, when do we start pointing the finger at the players? Because, yes, Bobby Slowick has taken a big hit. He's taken a lot of criticism. And eventually that's the name of the business in the end of the day, right? It's the coaches. When a team is not playing well, the first one to get fired is the head coach, right? When things aren't going well in the offense, the offensive coordinator is going to be the one that's going to be taking the heat. So after that, though, I mean, week after week, when they talk about, hey, we're practicing, we're making changes and all of this, if you don't start to see any results on the field, you have to start kind of wondering, like, okay, well, if the coaches are changing the scheme or tactics, strategy, whatever it is, the players are the one on the field, right?
It always comes down to execution, because I don't think you ever call a play knowing it's not going to work, right? On paper, in theory, it always works. It comes down to, how is your team executing it? How are you communicating it to your players? Are your players getting the correct coaching when it comes to the technique involved in executing those plays? When they get out onto the field, do they remember what they were taught in practice, what you taught them in practice? There's a missing link somewhere, right? And it's probably a number of things. It's probably not just one thing. So back to Dina's point, yes, I think partial blame is a good way to describe what's happened with the Texans for a couple weeks and who deserves the blame. It's a number of people, including the players, including Bobby Slowick, including the offensive line coach, including...
Well, so I want to say something real quick. I think it just kind of like, I just had a light bulb moment.
Oh.
So I think when it comes to protection, I think it's on the players. I don't think that is, whether it's the offensive line coach or Bobby Slowick, I don't think it's their fault that their scheme is not good enough to protect the quarterback. Right. I think that falls on the players, because when you're an offensive lineman, and I gave you the example of Danielle Hunter, right? We've seen it a few times now where he makes this sort of like Europe step move and then spins the other way around and gets to the quarterback. If you're an offensive lineman, you have to kind of anticipate, how is this guy going to try to get around me? Because he's not going to get through me. He has to go around me somehow. So you have to think outside the box and say, okay, what is he going to do? How is he going to try to fake me in order to get by? What I do think it's on Bobby is when he calls plays that don't really make sense, right? Like 3rd and long and he wants to run it, right? Or 1st down and instead of passing, when you have situations that you should pass the ball, he decides to run it. When you have situations when you should pass the ball, he does the opposite. I think that's what falls on him.
Yeah, that's happened throughout this season, I would say. Both of those things. I want to say this, in your point about the players and taking accountability and just having pride in, what you are doing. Joe Mixon ran for 22 yards last week, okay?
Yeah.
DeMeco Ryans said in the press conference after the game, he's an old school running back. Joe Mixon reminds me of kind of an old school person in general. You're going to tell me that he didn't take some kind of motivation from last week in running 22 yards And this was a game of pride for him. The door was closed in the first half, but he was not going to allow it to remain closed. He was going to find a way. And it's that kind of spirit, I think, that can help lift a team, especially as the Texans go into this bye week with hopefully some good thoughts about how they played in Week 13.
Yeah, I think Joe Mixon didn't have to go as far as last week. The first half was good enough for him to find motivation. I think Joe Mixon goes into the locker room at halftime and says, I stunk in the first half. And I think Joe Mixon's the type of person that he's just not going to have that. It's just pride. He's just that's not who I am. I know I'm better than that. And like you said, he was going to find a way to knock the door down. So to your point also, going into the bye week, I think the Texans can take a lot from the second half. Mm-hmm. They have to polish it, right? They still need to improve.
Yeah.
Because they should be able to play the way they played in the second half the entire game. Because it's either they play that way in the first half and not in the second half, or now it got flipped around, right? Where it's like they played well in the second half but not in the first half. And you got to be able to play well all 4 quarters.
And that's a struggle, right? Isn't it, Luis? Let's put a complete game on tape. That's what we hear every week. And we are awaiting CJ Stroud at the podium there in Jacksonville. We expect to hear from the quarterback. We just heard from DeMeco Ryans. If you're just joining us, he hit on a number of things. Some surprises, for you and I at least. The offensive line getting the game ball. We both thought Joe Mixon deserved the game ball, considering that he ran for over 100 yards when, in our opinions, there was very little room on the field between the tackles for Joe Mixon to find space. He just seems to be able to do it. And Luis, we'll get to your point right after this. CJ at the podium right now. Let's go to him in Jacksonville.
Yeah, first and foremost, just thankful to God for this opportunity. Thank you for my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for this game to play, to be out there and come out healthy and, fully intact, and my body feels good. So, very grateful for that. But yeah, those 2 scoring drives are big. We put some really good drives together in the first half, just couldn't finish it. And it's something that we got to look back and get better at, just scoring when we got these good drives. We get a turnover by the defense. We got to be able to, try to generate 7, not 3. So, but yeah, out there ultimately, we handled everything well. They switched up a lot of things that they were doing on film, and did a lot of different coverages and different looks, and ran a little bit of man coverage and stuff. So, but I thought we handled it really well.
What's Joe meant to you in this offense?
It's meant a lot to me, man. Like, not only just in this offense, but just as a brother. To somebody who's been there before. Been around a great elite quarterback in Burrow. And knows what it looks like. And, he always telling me, like, bro, you got it. Just continue to just be you. And for me, it's been great to have that because, at times, you can be in your own head or whatever, but, he's always there to pick me right back up, and a lot of guys, too.
CJ, you guys started practice the earliest, you get this late bye,
Mm-hmm.
then you have the 3 games.
Yeah.
How much is the timing of this before this tough stretch run? How necessary is it?
It's very necessary. I thought, the way we've handled these last couple of weeks has been long, to go. This has been a grind, but kind of getting to week 14 to get a bye. We're not fiending for a bye, but we're also very grateful that it comes now, and then we got 3 games in 10 days or something crazy like that. So this is like perfect timing. It's been tough. It's been a long year from, we the first team to practice, got 4 preseason games, and then we go on and get the latest bye and then go from there and get 3 games in 10 days. But ultimately, man, the league is trying to challenge us to see what type of team we are. I think that this is perfect for us. We can recoup, our spirit, body, mind, and come back, and go on a stretch, man. And this is where our best ball needs to be played in, late December, early January, and then go on to the playoffs.
How much do you feel like you all really needed to get the touchdowns and as convincing as you all did in the third quarter? You all had 2? How important do you feel like it was for you all to get them?
It's always important. We're never not trying to score 7, but they did a good job on like those late third downs or second downs, generating pressure. And then just playing zone coverage or playing their leverage. There was a couple of times where we had a good play in, but the DBs played good leverage and, took away the looks that we wanted. And, had good rush too. So, but ultimately, we protected the ball down there and, been able to get 3. And that's what our type of defense is really all you need. But, we want to reward those guys for turnovers, things like that. But, yeah, we're always trying to score 7. But, when you can get some type of points, it's always good.
I finished with DeMeco Ryans today. Do you feel like you and Nico are kind of back in sync where you were starting the season?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think, Nika's come back. I don't think he was very rusty, which has been amazing to see. He's been turning it on every game, so it's very inspiring to see, and I can't wait to just keep building with him.
From your perspective, year 2, how much is, just the next level emergence of Nico along with Joe Mixon running as well as he has, how much has that helped you in your second year in the NFL?
It's helped me out tremendously, it's a lot of times where, they're trying to either take me and Nico away or Tank or, Metch Rob, the passing game, and then we're able to run the ball. And then, there's times where they try to take away Joe, and then we're able to pass it. So there's things, that we're still really new chemistry that we're still working on. And, now I feel like we're starting to get that rhythm, and we got to just keep it going. We always have really good drives, but, those bad plays, we got to get rid of those things. I feel like we'll be better with that. But I thought our O-line did amazing today in pass protection, did amazing. And then, running the ball at last 3rd and 5 to end the game, they're very – very, very motivated, to be able to run the ball and pass protect. So I thought they did a great job.
CJ, I know you've been asked about Joe. I apologize. Just Dalton mentioned from day one he recognized that Joe so badly wanted to be a leader for this team. That's not easy to do when you come to a new team all the time. What is it about him that makes that so genuine and effective in that role?
Yeah, it's just his personality. He's a servant. He's a helper. And that's ultimately what I want to be as well. Is who can I serve and how can I help. And that's ultimately, what the game of football is, and, that's what Jesus was. So that's where I get my motivation from. And, I think Joe has done a great job of that. And, I'm just really, really, really happy that he's on my team, because playing against him last year, he was great with the Bengals. So now, we're able to, generate some good drives with him, being able to run downhill, stretch zone, switch up the scheme, go gap scheme, and our O-line is bought into, what type of back he is to make their blocks right. And so he's serving those guys even with that, trying new things that he hasn't done in a long time. So I think, he's been a great, 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 brother to lean on for everybody.
Last 2 guys. What was that feeling like when you need 35 or another down 2? He gets it.
Yeah. Right there, I just seen the O-line, and our tight ends, Irv stepped up and did a great job. Kay, Dalton, and our receivers too. Rob has done great. Nico, Tank, Metch, all bought into the run game. I thought Jay Wayne did a really good job today, his first NFL game. So it's not just, Joe. He knows that, and he probably have told y'all that before, that it takes everybody to get the run game going. And I thought they did a great job, especially on that 3rd and 5. Like, to end the game like that and, to go out in the best formation of football and victory, it's special.
You always answer questions when you're facing all the pressure. Today, the offensive line did their job much better. Just an opportunity to talk about how good they were for you today and what allowed you guys to do as an offense.
Yeah, I mean, they're our everything, It starts up front, both O-line and D-line, and, when they can come out and have great protection, from the start, it gives me a sense of confidence. It gives the receivers knowing that they can run their full depth. The backs know where to hit, and once you get that flowing, it looks like it's working. But I think they've done a good job by handling all the noise and the media and all these things. Because at the end of the day, one time they'll love you one week and hate you the next. That's part of the business we're in. So I think they've done a great job of just keeping their head down and working.
Thank you, CJ.
And I just want to say, man, I just want prayers to Trevor. And I really hope and pray he's okay. And prayers to his family as well. But, yeah, I'm still rocking with his I don't think that was his intent. And, I pray that Trevor is okay and, his family is right there with him. So, yeah. God bless you guys.
Thanks, guys. Locker room's closed. See you tomorrow.
All right, you just heard CJ Stroud at the podium in Jacksonville. Luis, I've got my thoughts. I want to hear what you have to say about what CJ said at the podium.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway was what he mentioned, early in his press conference, that they had good drives in the first half, but they weren't able to finish. And he's just spot on. That's been the Achilles heel for the Texans this year, right? Like, if you look at, I was, writing down notes as I watched the game, and then in the first quarter, 12 minutes and 33 seconds left on the clock. CJ, he gets a 16-yard pass to Dalton Schultz, then 10 yards to Nico Collins, one 9-yard pass to Joe Mixon. After that, they run the ball 3 straight plays, and they only came up with 5 yards on 3 runs. So remember, we talked about it. Joe Mixon was just not having a good game early on. Can't put it all on him, just the Texans that were not able to run the ball early in the game, right? Then CJ got sacked, and that led to a punt. Then later, still in the first quarter, a deep incomplete pass to Tank Dell, and then they had, on that drive, they had one 15-yard pass, 2 incompletes, 1 2-yard run, and after that, they punt the ball again. So just the Texans not being able to get anything going early on, and when they did, they just weren't able to capitalize, because then in the second quarter, CJ finds Dalton Schultz for a first down on 4th and 2. I was surprised that they went for it on 4th and 2 early in the game.
Yeah.
And then after that, Joe Mixon, he's got nowhere to go, loses 2 yards. Then on 3rd and 6, this is that play that CJ extends the play. He somehow throws the ball around the defender, right? They get bailed out by the penalty, and then they get a first down. That's in the second quarter. Then after that, CJ got sacked on 2nd and goal. So remember, with under 8 minutes to play in the first half, they get it to 1st and goal. They were 10 yards away from, this is after their Stingley interception.
Right.
They get the interception. Now we're like, okay, can they reward the defense? Can they go and score after getting a takeaway? So they get to 1st and goal. What happens? He gets sacked. He loses 17 yards, and they come up with a field goal. You can't win in the NFL consistently, especially not beat good teams, when you get to 1st and goal territory and you don't come up with 7 points.
And the Texans have proven that
over and over
with these
and over.
games that they've lost this year, because as we mentioned, in the 4 of the 6 losses they had, coming into this game, those 4 losses in the previous 6 weeks that they had coming into this game, they had second half leads in all of them. The common factor, not turning drives into touchdowns. CJ said it. We want 7, not 3. Yes, there's a big difference between scoring touchdowns and kicking field goals, and Kaimi Fairbairn has been pretty good this whole year. I know people are going to say, oh, he missed the game-time field goal against the Titans, but let's be honest here. He shouldn't have even needed to be in that position. The Texans should not have even had to kick a game-time field goal against the Titans in that situation. They should have been up by another 10 points. It shouldn't have even been an issue. So, anyways.
To piggyback off of that, one thing that CJ just said right now, he said, with our defense, 3 is all you need, but we're always trying to reward them. And it's like, no, you do need 7 and not 3, right? Because what happened, even they have a great defense, don't get me wrong. I think the DeMeco's defense is amazing.
Yeah.
They've done so much this year. I mean, sacking Will Levis 8 times, last week, coming in with 5 interceptions against the Lions. But specifically on that game, with this defense, 3 was not enough because they ended up giving up a 19-point lead against the Lions, a game that they should have won theoretically, right? But so you can't always just depend on your defense or put them against the wall and say, hey, well, I'm sorry, guys, we weren't able to score enough. It's up to you again.
Ball's in your court again. I mean, think about the time of possession, right? How many times, especially against the Lions, the offense stalled, and then here you go. Defense has to come back out. DeMeco talked about how tired this team is in the press conference.
Right.
Yeah, thank goodness they have a bye coming up this week because, I'm sure this team is exhausted. And speaking of the bye, we might as well segue now into what's next. Erica, thank you for your comment. She says, we are beating ourselves. Yes, when the Texans have lost this year, they have beat themselves. And hopefully, Luis, in the final 4 games of the season, we're not going to see that from the Texans. We truly hope, because they've got the Dolphins. That's not going to be an easy game.
Although winnable. For me, I have it as a winnable game.
It is winnable.
They should win that game.
Well, they're all winnable, aren't they?
I wouldn't say.
Shouldn't they be?
I wouldn't say that against the Chiefs and the Ravens.
And there you go. That's
and then
who
they play the Titans. Then
they play the Titans at the end of the year. Yeah. Another divisional game. Our producer Lupita does not like that you just said that. No, but you do have to be realistic, right?
Lupita's a little delulu.
Because we know she's a Texans fan. We know she's a Texans fan. She was helping us on that Sunday night game with the one word. So I can't remember what her word was, but
Delusional.
maybe, maybe I don't know. We've got so
Dolphins.
here we have the schedule.
Yep.
It's Dolphins,
Chiefs.
Chiefs at home. No, Chiefs on the road. I'm
Right.
sorry. That's going to be, Arrowhead in December. It's going to be cold.
Mm-hmm.
We know that the Texans, from what we've seen, don't play great in the cold. And why would they? They play inside for most of the season, right? So that Ravens game at NRG Stadium, that's a positive sign. But then they go on the road and they play the Titans to finish out this year. You know what I think is going to be as much of an opponent as the actual opponents that they play?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they play 3 games in 10 days, Luis, to finish the season.
CJ said it, right? He said, I think the league is testing us, see how good we really are.
It's one way to put it.
With that
Sure.
schedule, right? Yeah, that's going to be a tough stretch. Remember earlier in the year when they were off to such a good start? 5-1. And we talked about if this team can, because looking ahead at the schedule, we thought, okay, they could win this one, yeah, blah, 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 this. And we thought, what do they call it? Load management in the NBA. Greg Popovich, load management. We thought if they get to this stretch, when we finally get to this point of the season, will they be able to do some load management, rest some guys? We're here now, and that's not going to happen. No, you got 3
It's
games.
all hands on deck.
Because, you have a 2-game lead, yes, but, you still haven't clinched, and you got 2 games that, for me, I hate to be this guy, but on paper, realistically, the way that the Texans have played, especially when they've played, tough opponents like the Vikings, like the Lions.
Sure.
They lost both of those games. Now they're going to play the Ravens and the Chiefs. I don't know. I don't think that they're favorites to win any of those games. I think they're favorites to beat Miami and the Titans to the end of the season. So the division's not won just yet.
Yeah, I sincerely doubt that they are going to be favorites in either of those games, especially against – they're not going to be favorites against the Chiefs. I'll tell you that right now, especially on the road in Kansas City. They shouldn't be favorites, and that's not a knock on them. It's just the fact that the Chiefs are the Chiefs.
They've lost 1 game all year.
They've earned that reputation.
Back-to-back champions.
Back-to-back champions. You mentioned Indianapolis, right? They won today against the Patriots. Would have helped the Texans out quite a bit if they had lost today, but they didn't. They're only 2 games back, and with 4 games to play, these are the Colts' opponents. Denver, then Tennessee at home, then the New York Football Giants on the road. I don't think it really matters where they play that team, to be honest with you. And then finally the Jags at home. That is a soft schedule to finish the season.
Right, I think so. Look, they do play, so it's the Broncos, they play the Titans and the Jaguars. So 2 divisional games, they count twice as much, you could say, quote unquote, right? Because if you do lose, it's a division game. So that's in favor of the Texans.
Sure.
But it is the Jaguars and it is the Titans in a division that we all know the AFC South is probably the weakest division in the whole NFL, right? So it's not a really tough schedule. It's definitely not Chiefs and Ravens on there. So
no.
Anything can happen between the Colts and the Texans. That's the thing. They do have a softer schedule.
Right. So basically what you're saying is that this is going to be a
come
mad
down-
dash to the finish.
Come down to the wire.
Don't forget, Christmas Day, Beyonce performing at halftime.
And the Texans just play around her, right?
We'll absolutely be there for that one. You can bet on that. No, but thank you so much for tuning in to our live stream here on Facebook, KHOU 11 Plus. This will be up on YouTube in case you want to rewatch anything that we talked about. But of course, we have Sports Extra coming up tonight at 10:30. We've got former Texans Seth Payne and JJ Moses on tonight. This one. It's gonna be
excited.
a good show tonight.
I can't wait to hear.
I'm excited. I'm excited to hear what these guys have to say after this win because, it's not just after a loss that you get the hottest takes. Sometimes it's after a win as well, and especially now, again, the Texans going into a bye week, they've got those 3 games in 10 days to finish the season. Man, there is going to be a lot to talk about. Luis, any final thoughts?
Yeah, so I like what they did in the second half. I think it's a good way to go into the bye week. Now it's, okay, are the guys going to say, hey, especially after you've heard them say, DeMeco, CJ, it's been a long season. We finally catch a break. Are they going to fully disconnect and go on vacation? Or are they going to dial in and say, okay, we'll take advantage of the bye week to physically rest and recharge for what's coming ahead, but mentally we have to continue to dial in and make changes. How do we improve? Because they need to come out after the bye week. They need to come out and they need to show out against Miami, and then the 2 big games come after that, which is the Chiefs and the Ravens. We don't want to. Hopefully, it's not, hey, let me go on vacation. Let me go to Cancun for a few days, and you forget about football. It's easy, right? I mean, it'd be lovely, but hey, that's what the offseason's for.
Well, I don't know about them, but I'm going to meditate this week during the bye week, and hopefully I'll have some answers then. We look forward to seeing you tonight. Again, Sports Extra on KHOU 11 at 10:30 with former Texans JJ Moses and Seth Payne. Of course, Luis is there. I will be there. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for tuning in.